On this episode of DPV, we're going to put the Advanced Adapters Slip Yoke Eliminator Kit in our NP231. Alright, you can see here why we need the Slip Yoke Eliminator. With the lift, it puts this drive line at a much steeper angle, and you're pretty much guaranteed to have drive line vibrations at anything over like a 2.5 inch lift on a TJ. So a slip yoke eliminator is going to get rid of this slip yoke right there. You can see how that drive line goes in and out. Basically, it's going to put a fixed yoke right about here, and then we'll have to do a double cardon shaft or drive line with the slip in the drive line itself, much like the front drive line. And that'll do a couple things. One, it'll lengthen the drive line so the angle is less steep, and then also gives us the ability to remove the drive line if something were to break, like if we were to destroy something in the rear end, or if the drive line broke, we could unbolt it without dumping all the fluid out the back of the transfer case. So I'm going to get this thing removed. It's just basic wrenching, a few 9/16 bolts to the transmission, linkage, and some wiring. Drive lines are pretty much already pulled, so I'll get that, and then I'll see you at the bench. Alright, so now I got this thing cleaned up a little bit. Let's go over what we're going to do today. So basically, we've got an NP231 transfer case. This is a part-time transfer case, meaning that you can have 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, and then it's got a 2.72 to 1 low range. This came in a lot of different Jeeps, from the TJ like we got, Grand Cherokees, XJs. It's been around a while, and it's pretty sought after if you've got one of those types of Jeeps, XJ, ZJ, TJ, whatnot, because it's really strong, and it's got that part-time. A lot of guys that run the ZJs have that NP249. That's a full-time case. They like to swap these in to have that part-time ability. Anyway, basically what we're going to do is swap out this output shaft for one with a fixed yoke. We bought our kit from Summit Racing. It's Advanced Adapters Slip Yoke Eliminator. So let's go check out those parts. All right, so this is what you get in the Advanced Adapters Slip Yoke Eliminator kit. Here's the new output shaft housing. See, it's got the seal for the yoke, and the place for the speedometer. Anyway, just replaces that slip yoke housing with a place for a fixed yoke. Here's some of the speedo parts and snap rings. This right here is our new fixed yoke. See, that's where it's all splined for the new shaft. And this is what makes it different from a hack and tap kit. It's got a brand new machined shaft. It replaces the output shaft in the transfer case. I'll show you on the transfer case. The output shaft on that extends way out because it's got the slip for the drive line. This one, the yoke attaches right here, which really shortens it up, allows you to run a longer drive line. It's just stronger in general. So with that, we got to tear apart the case, get the output shaft out, and basically that's the last thing that comes out on a teardown. So we have to tear it all the way apart. Alright, so there's a series of bolts that go right around there. I'm also going to take these off. There might be some snap rings behind there, and then plus I want to change out this seal. It's not required on the project, but it's a lot of work to get the transfer case out with, you know, dropping the drive lines and the skid plate and cross member and all that. So might as well change it. One thing to note, it does not come with the advanced adapters kit, so you'll need to buy those seals separately. This seal is replaced because of the new housing, or the new tail shaft housing. The input shaft that seal is not included, and the front output shaft seal is not included. So we're going to be replacing both of those. Also, we'll be replacing the output shaft seal on the transmission because it's kind of buried in there, and we're this far, we might as well pull it out. Alright, so the difference between what we have and the hack and tap is the hack and tap will oftentimes replace this housing because the seal is different, but basically you cut off this shaft here and then you tap the center of it for a bolt, and that's what holds the yoke on. And people are successful with those. They work okay, but you can imagine that you're taking out quite a bit of metal when you're, you know, drilling that shaft for the bolt, so it's definitely not as strong. Plus, there's a lot of opportunity for screwing up when you are hacking it, and then you got to drill right in the center of that shaft. So this advanced adapters kit with replacing the output shaft altogether is a lot better way to go. A little more expensive, but it's worth it. Alright, so there's our first snap ring right there. Alright, so I got it split in half. Here you can see that chain's a lot narrower than that Borg-Warner chain, but it's not under tension all the time because it's only engaged when it's in full drive, so it doesn't have to be as big. You can see here how the full drive is engaged. So you can see these little teeth on that gear spin independently from the main shaft here. So basically what happens, this big shift fork here moves this. I can't really move it without shifting it. Anyway, this slides forward and basically it connects this gear with this gear. That's how you end up with full drive. This ring gear here, it locks these two gears together, giving you full drive. Also in here, I'm not going to tear it apart, but there's a planetary, kind of like I showed you on the Borg-Warner video, for the low range. And this shift fork down here engages the low range versus high range, just by sliding that planetary back and forth. So anyway, that's what the inside of the NP231 looks like. So you got to tear it apart a little bit further. There's a few more snap rings in here to pull off to get this main shaft out. Alright, got the case all tore apart. The hardest part was snap rings for sure. This is the heart of the advanced adapters slip yoke eliminator kit. This is the stock shaft here. See, this is where the speedo was, and then slip yoke on the drive line. You see the slip yoke eliminator cuts down on the length quite a bit, which helps with the driveline angle. And you can also see that the advanced adapter shaft has a lot more girth to it, so that'll help with strength. It does come with a plastic gear that slides over these splines here for the speedometer. Just gotta clean up all the RTV off the case and start putting it back together. The hardest part of taking it apart was definitely the snap rings. So if you're going to do this project, invest in some good snap ring pliers. I just bought some cheap ones from Harbor Freight and it was pretty frustrating. Anyway, let's get to it. Alright, so that concludes part 2 of lifting the TJ. Got that advanced adapters slip yoke eliminator kit in the NP231. So part 3 on lifting the TJ will be drive lines, tightening up some brake lines and such, filling everything up with fluids, hopefully testing it out. And then, like I said, Easter weekend we're going to have our own Easter Jeep Safari, Idaho style. With that, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.